And welcome back to Game Escape, here today with a hardware review. Haven't done one of these in a while. We'll be looking at the Hori Fighting Commander 3 Pro, which is a custom fighting pad from the good people at Hori. I picked this up a couple of months ago, and I've been using it on and off. And it's a pad that has a lot of interesting ideas, that tries a lot of different things, but ultimately, I don't think it works, and we'll talk about why. First of all, kind of some of the interesting things that it does. This is a standard 6-button controller, and it duplicates. You have the R1 button and the R2 button here on the face pad, so it makes it very nice for games like Street Fighter. Obviously, the trigger buttons up top, and you can even see that you can even switch the position of the L and R buttons. So for certain games, if you want all of your controls available to your right thumb, you can do that. It has, let's see if we can zoom in here, it has a turbo function with 3 different settings. I'm not sure what the input ratios are on that. I don't really play with the turbo settings on. You can actually switch the function of the D-pad, so you can have it be the digital pad, the left stick, or the right stick, depending on what you're trying to do. Standard PlayStation button, and of course the lights indicating which controller you are playing as. So a couple of the interesting features here. It is an adjustable thumb pad, and what you do is, I don't know if you can see this here, there's a lock button. You just set that to free, and you can get 20 degrees of movement here. And the reason why they do that is to make certain inputs, say in Street Fighter, a little bit easier. The quarter circle and half circle moves tend to be a little bit easier to pull off if you have the D-pad in that position. If you switch it over to the back here, under my thumb, see if you can get that, it has different input ranges. So you can set it to wide, normal, or narrow, and actually to do that you will need just a standard coin. It's a Swiss franc that I happen to have from a trip, but in any case a quarter works, and you just kind of, like a battery case, and you just kind of flip it open, or open up the input. Now that's on the narrow setting. I had it down on the large setting. It has a nice feel. Obviously, it's sort of asymmetrical here. It's supposed to be, the argument behind it is that by not having kind of like a long end on the right-hand side, you're reducing the travel time of your right thumb to the buttons. I don't really know if that is true. It actually feels a little bit awkward in your hand. The design, I think this design kind of harkens back to the Neo Geo CDX controller, at least kind of the facepad design, or the Japanese Turbo Duo controller, which kind of had this arc in the buttons as well. The downside to this controller, I think, is that there's a lot of travel, both in the face buttons here, but specifically in the joystick. You really kind of have to press down to have it respond. It doesn't really cup your finger well. The edges are pretty severe, and I find that after a long playing session, your fingers get quite fatigued. It would have been nice if they kind of adopted the Sega design, where actually it was just basically a circle raised up a little bit, really cupped your finger, and that was a great 6-button controller. It really gave you, I thought, a fine degree of control. Here you have to be very, very precise with your button presses to achieve what you want in a fighting game. So as far as in-game performance, we're going to first take a look at Super Street Fighter 4, and it was competent, and I actually do think that the ability to kind of switch the position of the D-pad really did make it easier to pull off, at least with Ken, as you're seeing here, the dragon punches and the hurricane kicks and stuff like that. It made a noticeable difference, and I suspect that if you're playing online, that's going to help you out. As far as the characters like Balrog, who have just the back 2 seconds, forward 2 seconds input type moves, didn't really notice a tremendous difference. I played Mortal Kombat, and I actually thought that this controller worked well for Mortal Kombat, since the movesets in Mortal Kombat tend not to have the half circle and quarter circle movement so much as they do specific directional inputs. And I actually like the fact that the block buttons are really, really close to the attack buttons, so I actually thought that I had more success using this controller in Mortal Kombat. I then tested it on Persona 4 Arena, and this is where I think the fatigue came in. Persona 4 Arena is very, very frenetic, and you need to, you're all over the pad here, trying to pull off some of these maneuvers, and I just thought after a while, boy did my thumbs hurt playing that game. The other test that I did, and actually the reason why I bought this is because I wanted to use it as a good emulator controller, and it really wasn't doing the trick. I bought it actually to replace what I think is the best controller for emulators, the Logitech Precision. Now, this was sold in GameStop back probably from about 2006 to 2009 for $10. And yeah, obviously a clone of the PlayStation 1 controller, pre-analog stick, and it's just wonderful for PC emulation. It's just getting a little old, and the directional pad is getting a little bit loose, and I'm losing the precision here because I've played this a ton over the past 5 or 6 years. So I was hoping that this guy could kind of replace that, and actually just like I said, the fatigue, just the travel of the buttons made it such that if you're playing games, particularly like a Zelda game or any kind of game where you have to move in kind of a 360 degrees and just kind of go around and around and around, it becomes very, very difficult to use. So if it's not really the choice for emulation, nor in fact is it very good for old school games on the PlayStation Network. As you can see here, I'm showing you some Sonic 4 Episode 2, and again, same issue. You're having to press way too hard, and the travel is just too great to make it a comfortable experience for playing a game like that for long periods of time. So what's the verdict here? I think the problem with this controller is it does not have really a clear audience. It's priced at $34.99 on the Hori store, and for $39.99 you can get their Mini Fighting Stick 3, which I have not tested, but it would actually be curious to see how this performs relative to something like that. I can say that when I first picked up the PS3, there was Hori had another entry-level stick. I think it was the Hori Fight Stick 3 or something like that, and it was pretty good, and I would say that it certainly made games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat more enjoyable. I've upgraded to kind of the mid-range sticks. As you can see, I did a video review of a couple of them a while back, and there's no comparison. There's no reason why I would play any modern fighting game with this stick versus something like the Hori Real Arcade Pro V3 or the Dream Arcade's Dream Stick that I did, which is actually only works for the Xbox 360. And then when like I said, if you want to play an emulator, when you compare it to something very simple like the Logitech Precision, it doesn't perform well in that setting. So I can't really recommend this product to anyone but someone who's like a dedicated pad fighting game player who maybe plays competitively online only wants to use the pad. In that case, you do have a certain degree of precision over, the stock PS3 gamepad. But that's it. I also think it's probably just more comfortable if you want to play on the pad and you're not a competitive player, just to stick with the DualShock controller, use the analog sticks. Yeah, they're not great, but they won't fatigue you as much as this guy does. So, if you can find it, maybe for under $30, you want to try it out, that's fine. Again, if you're a competitive pad, gamepad fighting game player, it's definitely worth a look. That is probably the target audience, but that is just such a small portion of gamers, and I think for anyone else, you'd just probably be better served by picking up an entry-level fight stick or sticking with your gamepad. So, as always, I thank you for watching Game Escape, and I will be back very shortly with a new video.